right, take it away, Seema.
Okay. So the agenda for today will be, I'll start with a basic introduction as to how Natya Shastra came into existence, talking about source and origin, who wrote it, when it was written, and how it was officially affecting the theatre in India and how it's evolved. And eventually I'll talk about the components of Natya Shastra. And in Vedas, when I say Vedas, Vedas are basically the scriptures. So Natya Shastra is also known as a science of drama, which I'm going to talk about. And then growth and how it affected and influenced various traditional Indian dance forms. And bhavas and rasas are one very big component of Natya Shastra. It is not the entire Natya Shastra, but since Natya Shastra is a big scripture involving more than 6,000 verses in Sanskrit, so it's hard for me to populate it all in 1 hour. And I try to take the most important elements from Natya Shastra to make it simpler and to make it understandable for our audience. And then I also talk about yoga of 9 rasas, which you will find out what I'm talking about. These are all Sanskrit words. I'll translate them all one by one. And then how does affected or how does similar to the other theatrical forms in other countries and how they kind of like talk to each other. And followed by the modern theatre in India, how it has evolved into the modern contemporary form of theatre in India that we come to talk about, and followed by the conclusion and discussion. All right, so Natya Shastra, what is it? I've tried to break it up in 2 words, Natya plus Shastra. Now Natya is derived from a Sanskrit word nat, which the simpler English meaning of this is play, drama, and act. And Shastra is a perception, a compendium or a compilation of certain rules that, okay, that these are the rules, these are the prescribed rules for any theatrical form, and that is how it was evolved as a Shastra. The word Shastra means science, so the simplest meaning I could derive from Natya Shastra was a science of drama. Alright, now the text in Natya Shastra contains precepts on the writing and performance on the dance, music and theatre. So what Natya Shastra says is that we are not just setting up the standardized rules just for the theatre form, but also for all art forms. It could start from architecture, it could be sculpture in India, paintings in India, and how the painters and sculptors and writers and playwrights have been influenced by Natya Shastra. So it's pretty much all pervasive. Sanskrit theatre is another name for Natya Shastra. It's called Science of Natya, and which is a treatise on theatre. Bharat Muni, he was a scholar and a sage. He was supposedly born in between 3rd and 4th centuries. We still do not know the exact birth date. I tried to Google him up. I tried to talk to people who are studying and researching on Natya Shastra. Nobody knows the exact date of when he was born. But he is the original author of Natya Shastra. He put the scripture together, and he actually defines the Natya Shastra as Prayoga Shastra, which is nothing but a theory of praxis. And now what is theory of praxis? It's practice of an art. So before Bharat Muni, we do not know if theatre actually existed in India, or if there are other forms of folklore dances that existed. There are multiple views on this. Some people believe that yes, there were theatre, there were different kind of traditional theatrical forms before Natya Shastra. But Bharat Muni came into the picture and he said, I am going to put up certain rules, certain scriptures, test scripts together, which will define the future shape of theatre in India. Okay, now the origin and drama of theatre has been told in a very dramatic manner. Even Bharat Muni dedicates it to be actually conceptualized by Lord Brahma. Now, most of you would probably, I don't know if you know or don't know, Hindu religion has like several thousands of gods power. And Lord Brahma is known to have designed and created the whole universe. So Bharat Muni said in the opening chapters of Natya Shastra that it's not me who's coming up with the Natya Shastra or any new science. It was originally conceptualized by Lord Brahma. And now as a commoner, I would say, like, if I'm a God believer, I would say, okay, Lord Brahma created the whole universe, so he might as well created Natya Shastra as well. So, but what is very unique about Natya Shastra is that Bharat Muni made it, converted those scripts that were written in previous Vedas, and those Vedas were written by vid1, and he made it, he translated the scripts into a very simpler and very understandable manner. So he made it very interesting for people to understand and read through the terms in layman. If you're coming from even outside the theatre world, you'll be able to understand Natya Shastra. So he's put it in a very simplified manner, but yet it is in Sanskrit. So Sanskrit theatre, and that's what I was talking about. It ranges from, it's believed to have been written between 200 BC to 280. So it could be any time in between those 400 years. I do not know the exact date. Many other scholars do not. We're still working on it. So yes, the authorship is attributed to Bharat Muni. And I came across a very interesting thing while I was researching on this. That Bharat Muni goes on claiming that the Natya Shastra of Brahma was too unwieldy and obscure, so it was like all over the place. And in those days, it's believed that, I'm talking about this between 200 BC to 280, when everything was not evolved. Like now we have technology, we have everything available to us at the mere touch of the button. In those days, there were scriptures, but not many people had the understanding to perceive whatever Lord Brahma was trying to say, because number one reason was it was all written in Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is the most ancient and most hardest language in the whole world. Even you can debate on this after we finish the presentation, but yes, most of the languages that we hear in modern world, Greek, Afghani, Irani, even Hindi is pretty much derived from Sanskrit, and all these other languages were thereby derived from Sanskrit too. Some of the English words are supposedly derived from Sanskrit too, but it's still debatable. So Natya Shastra goes on presenting a mythological account. So in India, in those days when in that time span when Natya Shastra was written, there were kingdoms that were flourished with material wealth. A lot of money was there, but not many people, had a goal in life. So there happens to be a time that is documented in Indian scriptures, in Vedas, that people were, attracting towards, misdeeds, bad deeds, and involving themselves in foul language because they did not have a specific goal in their lives. So Bharat Muni thought, through Natya Shastra, I'm going to tell people how to distinguish between the bad and the good. So they find not just the, a theatrical form just as a mode of entertainment, but also they learn from it and evolve, as human race. And it was mostly practiced by the priests who had the command on the Sanskrit language and who knew the proper techniques of dance and the hand gestures that I'm going to briefly talk about. And it was believed to have passed from one generation to another.
And it was this practice in temples or?
Mostly in temples, yeah, I'm going to talk about that too. Mostly in temples, the priests, and it was eventually advanced towards the area of royal patronage courts as well, that the kings used to have, but it started with the temples. Okay, so Lord Brahma I've already talked about. So yeah, and so before Natya Shastra there were 4 Vedas. The evidence and the written manuscripts that we have right now dates back to 2nd century, maybe older than that. So the Vedas that I'm going to cover in the next few slides were there, but none of the Veda talked about the mode of entertainment. And that's how the fifth Veda evolved by Bharat Muni or by Lord Brahma. We do not know, but yeah, the original writer was Bharata. So Bharat came with the fifth Veda and he described it as a Natya Shastra. So it consisted of these four elements, and then the four the scriptures that I was talking about is Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Athar Veda. Now, what is Rig Veda? These are the four very popular scriptures in India, and anyone who has read Bhagavad Gita, which is another very popular and ancient, it's the most modern version of the scriptures transported from these Vedas. Rig Veda tells you about how you recite the music, and Rig Veda originally wrote all the music. It was all written in Sanskrit again. So anybody who was reading the Rig Veda, now we have versions in Hindi and English, and I can share more links with you after the presentation. And Samaveda basically prescribed a certain way or a technique how in the way the Gita was sung. The shlokas, the verses were sung. So it talked about a technique that gave the direction to the people who were interested in the area of music, that this is the way you're going to recite the music, and this is the way it's going to be sung under Samaveda. Yajur Veda came into practice when they thought that yes, we have the hand gestures, we have talked about the expressions, but what about the speech and how you emote on stage? That aspect of Abhinay. Abhinay is the word for acting, and the techniques and the acting styles were originated actually from the Yajur Veda. Athar Veda is a very interesting Veda that actually is evolved as a part of rasa theory that I'm going to talk about. Now, what is rasa? Rasa is something that can be defined in very simple terms as flavor of theater. And that's what rasa theory was derived under Yajur Veda, and I hope you will like when I talk about in more detail in the next slides. So this is the picture of a very basic form of Natya Shastra. And now since there are about 36, yes, sorry.
So you said like Natya Shastra was the fifth Veda, but then you talked about sort of components of Natya Shastra that also appear in each of the Vedas in the song and the dance.
Yes.
So is it a separate Veda, or do you actually have elements of Natya and all?
The four Vedas were actually broken up into pieces, and they were summarized in Natya Shastra.
Those elements
were classified, in subsequent chapters of Natya Shastra. But the whole agenda of coming up with Natya Shastra as a fifth Veda is to compile them all together and to put a standardized rule or technique together. Because it is believed that there were theatrical practices before that too. There were tribes who would usually, and they were like, people did not have the perfect medium or technique to act on stage, so they would, just go on, and they would usually, the whatever evidence I found was that there would be traditional tribes who would mimic, mimic the animals and mimic the fights between the tribes, and that's all they had. So they was more focused on a storytelling. But after Bharat Muni came into, evolved, wrote Natya Shastra, they kind of had a perfect medium of expressing the emotion, putting the mode together, and how they're going to do it in a stylized manner. So that is all Natya Shastra is all about, and it's very deep. So you will find out when I talk about bhavas and rasas, which is again one of the very important components of this fifth Veda. So it very much covered with every aspect of stagecraft. It was not just limited to the acting style or the recitation style or the rendition and how it was done by an actor, how it was emoted by an actor, but it pretty much covered all the other background aspects too, which included the makeup, the eye gestures, the finger gestures, which are called mudras. So a while ago, Amar asked me if it was practiced only in the temples or by the priests. Yes, it did start with the traditional dance forms in temple grounds, and but it took the shape. It finally advanced. It made its way through the royal courts too, because the kings, again, as I said, it is much before the Britishers invaded India. Kings had a lot of material wealth and they wanted to entertain themselves, but then Bharat Muni thought that if they are just going to just sit there and watch the dance and without setting up a particular technique or a goal to it, it'll be useless. So that's how Natya Shastra shaped up the theatre. And the performers were all, they belonged to small professional companies where the actors would be hired from, and they would be put under the patronage of the several kingdoms. And there was always a sutradhar. Now, sutradhar in the modern word is called a producer or a director or a stage manager, but those days it was a sutradhar who could be a puppeteer, would be doing running the strings in the puppet show, or mostly sutradhar word is used for a commentator. Since Natya Shastra focused mostly on the facial expressions, the hand gestures, and the dance forms, they needed to have a sutradhar in place who would be able to communicate the emotion depicted by the actor to the audience, and that's what the role of sutradhar was. And this, I included this. So this is the literal meaning of sutradhar. So holder of strings could be a manager, or who's under flagship, whose the plays were written and demonstrated and played. All right, so we come to the interesting aspects on the dance forms. Now, there are more than 12 or 14 traditional dance forms in India, and I could not come up with all of them, but I have tried to put 4 very, very prevalent and very important and popular dance forms in India that have taken the learnings and concepts from Natya Shastra. The 2 are Odissi and Kathakali. Now, Odissi is also known as Odissi, but now it's popularly known as Odissi. And it's it originated in the Hindu temples of Orissa and the eastern coastal state of India. And it was predominantly performed by the women, but then it evolved and it started with the temples, but again it made its way to the stages, the modern stages, and the men and children started participating too. But the basic focus in Odissi were in the hand gestures. If you closely notice, they are not singing anything. When I may have like clips later in this presentation, but they would not recite the music. They would not they would seldom have any speech in the plays, but they mostly talked through their hands. And how they did that, I'm going to demonstrate in a little bit. Kathakali. Kathakali again is one of the major forms of Indian classical dances that we know of. And it is story genre, it is a story play genre of art, which is predominantly played by the males. And these males are usually wearing a very high makeup, mostly on their eyes, and they paint their faces in order to enhance the facial expressions. And Kathakali is also very, very known to include people who would dance and they won't have time to do all the makeup, because the makeup takes about 60 to 85 minutes for the original Kathakali makeup. And so now in modern days, they also have face masks that would not just include the makeup, but a predefined emotion, the predefined facial expression also, imbibed in the face mask. And it is very huge and heavy mask to carry, and do the dance performance for about 30 minutes to, could last up to 1 hour, more than that. But people are still doing that, and I believe it's one of the most commendable dance forms in India. And Kathakali started from a southwestern region of India known as Kerala. Kathak and Bharatanatyam. Now, when I was growing up and learning about different Indian dance forms, I would get confused between Kathak and Kathakali. Now, but Kathak is, the word Kathak is derived from the word Katha. Katha means in English, again, a story. So the commonality between Kathak and Kathakali is that through their dance and hand movements, they are communicating a story to the audience. But the basic difference is that in Kathakali, there is not much use of the feet. The feet movements are more prevalent in the Kathak dance forms. And Kathak is something that you would see is derived and populated in the modern Bollywood movies too. And it's, I won't say it's the easiest form of dance that exists in India, but it is very popular, very catchy. And if you watch, like I can bet on this, if you watch like four Kathak clips, you will try to understand in much better way as opposed to Kathakali. And Bharatnatyam finally. Now I'm not a trained Bharatnatyam dancer, but I did a show called Secret Garden, where actually I ended up playing an Indian spirit who comes and evokes certain emotions in a girl who has lost his parents in a colonial setting in India. And this was for Justice Theatre, and I was told that I'm supposed to learn Bharatnatyam for this. I'm like, okay. Bharatnatyam, now people learn this dance from over the number of years, and I have personally found it very, very, very enriching experience for me, because I had to practice the master of mudras, I had to practice that art in like just several months. And the day one, I thought like, no, I do not think I can do this, but I ended up doing it, and I'll tell you how I learned more about this. And they were proper professional dancers to teach me. But there were times when they would just give up on me, like, okay, you're not able to catch the mudra. Now, mudras are the most difficult part. Even I can express, now my director liked my expression the most, and she said, like, you're expressing the dance through your eyes, so you might as well just do the Bharatnatyam too. And that's what Bharatnatyam is very popular for. Expressions, facial expressions, they talk a lot from their eyes. They communicate a lot of emotion through their eyes. So for example, if they want to show a pleasure, or somebody, a woman who's glowing with her new found love, she'll show it through her eyes. And if she's sad, it's called Karuna Ras, which is again an emotional state of being. She'll show it and convey it through her eyes. And that's what I did. And but there is
Sorry.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay.
And these are the mudras. These are only some examples. I could not include it all because there are close to 3,000 mudras in all traditional forms of dances. And I'm going to present a very few that are very simple, and I'm not going to do any complicated mudras here. So these are Alakadama, and these are mostly used in a very spiritual context. It is believed that when you're practicing Bharatnatyam, Odissi, or Kathak, or Kathakali, or any other traditional dance form, the original belief was that you are presenting it to the Supreme Power, to the Lord, whatever Lord you believe in. And you're dedicating your art to that person, to that Supreme Being. And in reciprocation, the God is sending you that energy to populate it on the stage. So there's some certain mudras, simple ones that I can do for you. The lotus bud, and the blooming lotus, with the fingers expand and the thumbs stretch onto the each sides. You don't have to practice it. I mean, you can try. And this is the budding lotus. This is the bud that grows into a full-blown lotus. And then this is the bee. This is the bee that is a very popular movement, and some people mistake it like, because in one form of Indian dances, it is which is, I believe, Manipuri, that this is done as part of like, shaping the eye. That I'm coming and I'm emoting something with my eyes. And there is a certain posture that I have to be, my feet have to be in alignment with my face, and they're never facing the audience. They are not doing this. As opposed to Kathak, where a lot of movement is done through heels. And in Bharatnatyam, a lot of movements are done with the toes. So lotus, bee, and if you turn to the next slide, I included some of my pictures, and that's the bee mudra. But since I am not talking about emotion that is talking about like a lotus or a budding flower. Here this mudra is formulated as hearing, which was as opposed to this being a bee under Kathak, this mudra in Bharatnatyam, if put close to the earlobe, is signifying that I'm hearing something. So there was a song in the background that was playing, I hear someone cry. And so I came up to stage and I did this. Since we had to simplify it and we had to make it understandable to our spectators, this is what we did. And
oops, sorry.
Good. This is a very popular mudra in Bharatnatyam, where we are taking the energy from the Supreme Power and we are telling the God that yes, I'm blessed to be performing under your care. And finally, the Namaste greeting. And I think most of you would have heard about this or seen people doing this, but not everybody does it in the proper way. The proper Namaste is when all the fingertips, touch each other closely and the hands are held above the chest. And it has a lot of yogic power in these gestures. If they're practiced over a certain period of time and if they're practiced in the right manner, they're supposed to connect with energy points in your hands and with your brains. So it has helped me, I won't say the whole Natya Shastra, but these mudras and the yogas that I'm going to talk about very briefly, they have helped me not just shape as an actor, but also helped me grow as a human being, as a person. Okay, so in the 6th chapter of Natya Shastra, Bharat Muni talks about bhavas and rasas. And this was the most interesting aspect of Natya Shastra, and that's why I wanted to bring this into your, bring to these slides in the presentation. Bhava. What is bhava? Bhava, in very simple terms, is an emotion. It's an emotion that could be explicitly or implicitly expressed by an actor. Rasa, on the contrary, is a flavor, is an experience that is relished by the spectator. So whatever the actor is depicting on stage, be it through speech, through hand mudras, through facial expressions, through any mode of act, how that emotion is being translated to the audience and what audience is perceiving it as, that's the connection between bhava and rasa. And that's what Bharat Muni has specialized on. Okay, and based on 9 flavors, I'm going to talk about rasa are classified into, it's also called Navras, which talks about 9 rasas of Indian Natya Shastra. So the word Sanskrit, the Sanskrit word of bhav means emotion. It could be a sentiment, could be a state of mind that is being reflected on an actor's face. Now types of bhava. Now when I come to talk about bhava, as I said earlier, Natya Shastra evolved as a part of a person's spiritual quest. That why am I here? What am I here for? What is the goal of my life? So some people had the notion that if I'm just dancing and if I'm just acting, how am I putting it to a spiritual quest? Yes, you are putting it to a spiritual quest if you understand the Natya Shastra, and even if you are in any kind of stage, in any part of the world, you're subconsciously and consciously talking about all these bhavas that I'm going to briefly talk about. Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. Sattvic is a mode of pure devotion. It's supposed to be the most highest form of bhava that is known to the human being. Rajasic is, that's derived by passion, by materialism, and that gives, a feel to your ego that, yes, I have attained this. The lot of I comes under Rajasic. Tamasic is totally like, you're distorted. You are affected by just the superficial side of the world, and you're derived what drives you in life. Tamasic people are those like killers, murderers, psychopaths. They come under tamasic category. Now, why the bhavas are categorized into these 2 to 3 broader areas is because all the respective emotions, any existing emotion in the world, is either a combination of this, or that. And then there are types of bhavas, which sthai is nothing but the dormant emotion, the emotion that's underlying in our subconscious minds, that we sometimes come to know of. When you're sleeping, you must have realized when you've taken a power nap during the day, you thought about a creative idea, and you got up in the morning and yes, I think I could write a scripture on that, or a play on that, or something like that. So that is the sthai bhav, which is called mostly a dormant emotion that evokes certain emotions. Sanchari is ancillary to the permanent mood. They always travel with you. Now, when I'm talking about Natya Shastra here, I might be thinking about, okay, what's my daughter doing right now in the museum with her husband? That's my Sanchari mode, which always travels with you. Sattvic, as I said, the Sattvic was different, but Sattvic is a physical expression of these moods. That it could be physical expression of anger, smile, joy, or whatever I am feeling in between these 3 modes is reflected under my physical expression. Bhavas and devotion. Now, these are some. This is the one that I went through in the previous slide, was a very broad classification of bhavas. Now, you must be wondering, why am I even talking